Today what we're going to do is I'm going to pull the instrument panel out and unfortunately take the back off the speedometer and see what nylon gears are worn out. Also the cruise control is never functioned properly. It, say you're sitting on 100 kilometers an hour, you set the cruise control, it'll drop down to 95 kilometers an hour, speed up to 105, then drop back down to 95 and speed up again. And after about 5 minutes it shuts itself off. So now I'm going to show you how we pull that instrument panel out of the car. Well, we get a small screwdriver like this one and carefully lever the emblem out of the steering wheel. Okay, you can see the nut down in there in the steering wheel. We get a 22mm socket and shove it in there and undo it. Once you've done that, just pull the steering wheel up and off. Next we get a couple of bits of fine wire like that, hooks. The coat hanger might be too big. Around the control panel is a big rubber ring that holds that panel in to the dashboard. Anyway, you get your hook thing and you put it in the side. I've got two of them, one for each side. Spin it around, hook it and pull it out. I'm going to do it. I can't hold the camera and do it at the same time, unfortunately. As you can see, I've sprung it out a bit. What we're going to undo is take this rubber off down here, and there's two screws there, and I've got to drop the indicator arm off just so this thing's not in the way. As you can see, I've done two screws. There's one down here and one up here, and just loosen off the indicator arms and things. Whoops, there goes one screw, there goes the other screw, just to get them out of the way so you can pull out that instrument panel easier. When the panel comes out, by the way, this piece underneath is just a packing piece of plastic which I'll drop off. Now here we go. See, it's just a packing piece of plastic under there that allows us to spin the instrument panel back out a bit more. You can see that rubber ring at the back there, that's what wedges it in. So I'll just get it out as far as I can. Before I get too carried away, I'm going to take the carpet out of the floor there, because we're going to undo the speedo cable and the oil pressure line, and I don't want any leaking oil on the carpet on the floor. There's the speedo cable down here, which I've got to undo. This one is the thing that's on the back of the speedo for the cruise control, so it knows the speed. So it's quite squashed in there, and the oil pressure line is down at the back, down the bottom, down here. So I'm going to do the undo the speedo one first. So I've undone the speedo cable, which is lucky it was only finger tied, and the plugs from the back of the panel. There's the main one over here. And now I'll undo the oil pressure line just here. I don't know if the camera's focusing right, but anyway. So that's the last one, and then I'll just take the whole panel off. Now we have the instrument panel here on the floor. I'm going to undo these little nuts, I assume, and see what we have behind the speedometer. Well, I've undone those bolts and lifted the speedometer out, and now I'm going to have to pull the front off by the look of it. I'll have a I'll have to think about this. I've unbolted the part from the cruise control that goes onto the back here, which you can see down there, and I'm opting for undoing these two screws at the back, which are marked with a bit of green, because it looks very complicated from the front going down. Well, with the back off, it looks to me like I'm going to have to undo the next two screws, which is down there and down there, to get this piece off. That means that this gear here, which is drive gear, is going to come out from there. Anyway, we can only but try. Well, this is nothing like gears and things that I've read on the internet. This is the back piece that goes on the Speedo. The cable comes in here and spins this around. And it's interesting because this is how the cruise control works. This other coil here with this metal piece juts in the back of this piece here. It goes in a slot here, and it comes up behind that metal wheel spinning around, and that's what sets the speed for your cruise control. And everything looks alright, but I just so happen to have a spare one of these, which I'm going to put on since I've got the thing to pieces. But interesting enough, the trip meter part of it and everything seems alright, but it might be a gear or something down in there for the trip meter, so I'll just keep searching around there to see why the trip meter's not working. But it's nothing like what I was shown on the internet with gears and things. I have to weigh it up. Does it really matter if I have a trip meter or not? The main thing is to get the cruise control functioning properly, and hopefully that module at the back, when I put it all back together, will do that. Well, I've put the panel back in the car, and I must say it was rather hard to get the Speedo cable on. They don't give you much room at all, and also the oil pressure line. I'm just going to tell you a little trick here. What I do for putting the washer, I get a screwdriver and put it down there and slide the washer down onto the bolt. The other trick, if you can bear with me, is with the nut. I get a little piece of rag. I put the rag in the socket because the socket's too deep and the nut goes all the way down and you can't get it onto the bolt down in there. And I just put the nut in like that with the piece of rag, and it holds it up the top end just enough to start it. See, like that. Okay, I'm going to give it a run in a minute once I bolt this steering wheel up, just to try it out and see if it works. We took this car on a trip around Victoria, and we covered about 2,500 kilometres, which is about 1,500 miles, and the car performed marvellously. In the book it says it gets 18.8 litres per 100 kilometres, and I worked it out off the GPS, and we're running about 18.8, 19 litres per 100 kilometres, which is not overly cheap, but then again there's a lot of power here. What I really want to work is the cruise control. It saves you getting booked with red light cameras everywhere. You can quite easily lose your license and get a few $1,000s in fines real fast. This car, you just look away for a minute and it picks up 20 or 30 kilometres, and then you spend all your time looking at a darn stupid Speedo instead of watching the road for all the other idiots. Anyway, I'm going to do an ad now. This is an advert I'm doing now. If anyone in the world knows where I can find a new plastic cover that goes over in there, this thing, I broke this one when I had to take this panel out to change the switches and things down here, and I know the chances of finding one in the world would be rather slim, but my email address is riffraffjazz@gmail.com, spelt riff, R-I-F-F, raff, R-A-F-F, jazz, J-A-Z-Z, @gmail.com. If anyone in the world knows where I can find another one, I'd greatly appreciate it. It's one of the things that bugs me, having that broken piece of plastic. Now we're going to talk about the cruise control. There is only 4 items involved in the cruise control. One is the switch here, switch it off and on. The other is the sender or pulse counter, which is behind the speedo there, which we changed. And the other one is the amplifier, which is located up behind the dash. I'll go and show you the actuator and we'll have a chat about that. Rightio, the actuator is located, in my case, on the right hand side of the car facing it, and if I put the light down there you can see that is the actuator. It's runs on vacuum, and see down there I've disconnected the plug there, and there's 2 pins, and what you do is you get your multimeter, put it on ohms, and those 2 pins down there, put the your terminal on each one of them, and you should read between 10 and 22 ohms. In my case I've got 18 ohms on this one. That is your clutch. If you don't get a reading like that, your clutch is no good. The other thing I did is I took off the top there where the actuator is, where the throttle cable here runs up to your throttle, that is, the cable there. Undid the 3 screws around that, they're only Phillip heads, pulled it off, and behind that is your rubber diaphragm. And if the diaphragm is got any holes or splits or cracks, you're going to need a new one. In my case, I know this one works. We also have a couple of vacuum lines there off the actuator. I'll try and zoom down on them. There we go. That one there's got a brass nut on it. That one's like an exhaust that goes up behind your dashboard, just hangs there. And the other one goes right around up there and joins onto the lines that also do your central locking and stuff like that. Just make sure that that line around there doesn't have any cracks or brittle or anything like that and broken, otherwise your actuator won't work properly. So my problem is the amplifier, and we're going to pull that off now. First thing we do is pull off the panel down here. It's only got 3 screws, so we can get up there and have a look at the back. When you remove it, just undo that light fitting there and unplug it, and then you can take the whole panel away. I hate doing this because it's so cramped. Anyway, there's a bolt just there. I'll try and put the light on it, which is on the bracket for your foot brake. Undo that bolt, and see that plug there? That's a plug plugging into our amplifier. So we undo that bolt up there. There's the amplifier here. Undo that plug and take the whole amplifier out. And that's what I'm about to do now. We have the amplifier out here, and what we do is we undo these little clips around the edges, and they're already undone. And we pull out the card. And here's the card, amplifier card. Everything seems alright, looks alright, no burn marks, no damage anywhere.
But what I've been told and read is that these little solder joints, due to vibration over the years, don't make contact properly. And what is recommended is to get a soldering iron and just touch them all. Well, this all costs nothing, so I'm going to give it a go and try it. Well, you get your magnifying glass, you got your cord, you got your little scope iron. It's not turned on, obviously, I can touch it. And you just melt the little joint and let it go hard straight away. And go across the whole lot. And then when I finish doing that, I'll put it back in the car and see what happens. See if I've been given a bum steer or not. Well, I put it back in. I just took the car for a run. And guess what? It doesn't work. In the write-up it says that works in 2 out of 3 cases. So obviously I'm the the 1 out of 3 that it doesn't work. So now I'm up for a reconditioned amplifier. What a shame. Okay, that's it. See you on.